I've had a lot of technical issues for some reason, so if this seems like I've said it over and over again, it's because I have. So right before this, I made a video that was 3 questions for fellow atheists, and now I'm going to do my own answers. So, if you haven't watched that video, it's right before this one. Question number 1. Define the self, if it even exists. So I put the if it even exists because I don't think there's an individual self. I think that we're fundamentally inseparable and indistinguishable from the rest of nature. I think the body is the best place to illustrate this. So inside of our body, there's all sorts of different bacteria, viruses, protists, and fungus, and just all these different other organisms. And they're all, some are important, some are, detrimental to our health, but there's all of these different things inside of us. And even our own cells. Many different parts of our cells have different evolutionary histories. Our current understanding is that the eukaryotic cell, so a cell with organelles, came from multiple prokaryotic cells that sort of got used to symbiotic relationships, inside of one another, and eventually became completely dependent upon one another. And this led to the prokaryotic cell. So the different organelles inside of our cell even have their own evolutionary histories previous to the becoming a eukaryote. Also, looking at our cells are constantly dividing. They're constantly being scratched off, sloughed off, falling off, all of these different things. Growing, changing. So if you look at our body as a conglomeration of cells, these cells are indistinguishable and inseparable from the rest of nature. We can't fully divide out what is a human individual self with our bodies. So then what I think is going to be harder for people to accept is our mind. I'll try and explain. And I think the best way to illustrate this is through, from what I understand to be a Zen Buddhist practice of Zazen meditation, which is a form of meditation that I practice. And basically what you do at my level is you count your breaths for a set duration of time. So in breath 1, out breath 2, you keep doing this up until 10, and then you restart. Continue on for a period of time. And one thing that this really illustrates is just how little control you have over your own thoughts. Things come in and out seemingly on their own accord when you're trying to focus. Now, even if we just attributed all of this to the subconscious, we also know that some medicines, some foods, the weather, all sorts of these different things can affect your thoughts and moods and emotions. So, there's all of these things, these hormones and chemicals and medicines that can change your thoughts. And so we are not completely under control of all of our thoughts. So if we don't control our mind, and we don't control our body, and we reject the notion of an immaterial soul, then a human being is inseparable and indistinguishable from the rest of nature and existence. My second question is, why do you identify as an atheist instead of something else under the same or similar umbrella? So things like agnostics, or pantheist, or naturalist, or of those sorts. So I'm sort of going to knock out those 3 terms and eventually end up with why I identify as an atheist. So the beginning is an agnostic. I don't identify as an agnostic because I'm not an agnostic. They're completely different things. I say there is no God. There is no supernatural. Period. None. An agnostic says they doubt or don't know of the existence. Fundamentally different things. don't identify as an agnostic because I'm not one. Next is a pantheist. So, from my understanding, a pantheist believes that all of existence is God. And while I'll give you that if you want to define all of existence as God, sure, you can have it. I'll give you that. The only thing is, that's such a liberal definition of God that I don't think it does anything. Okay, so all of existence is God. What does that do? Give you an extra reverence for all of existence? I don't really think so. I think if we accept that we are fundamentally inseparable and indistinguishable from the rest of nature and existence, that should give us all the reverence we need. So, that's why I don't identify as a pantheist. Now, a naturalist believes that the natural world is real and that there is no supernatural, which is exactly in line with what I believe. But the main reason why I identify as an atheist rather than a naturalist is that I think people are more aware of the existence of atheist, so they know the term atheist. However, I don't think people know what an atheist really is. I think most people have this scary perception about what an atheist is that's not true. It's based on a whole lot of crazy things, and they don't actually know what we believe. So I identify as an atheist for those reasons. And I think that if people knew what we as atheists believe, they'd be less scared, because there's all of these different misunderstandings about atheism. Now, my final question is that if I found out or discovered that an interventionist god or gods did exist, how would I treat them? This question came from my friend Jen's blog called Blaghag at blaghag.com. And sort of my answer to this came from there and a discussion I had had with a friend on my video about questions for theists. So basically, if I discovered that an interventionist god was real, I feel that I would treat that god or gods the same way I treat a government. So, a government can deserve respect and such if it basically advances, works generally well, and ultimately helps society, how I view it. And if that government is not working, or if it's doing things very wrong, then we have the right and responsibility to attempt to change it, or even in extreme cases to overthrow it. And so I feel we should look at gods the same way. If gods were to exist, we should treat them, and I would treat them, like a government. Gods are not exempt from morality or any of that. They are another facet of society, and if they're not working to advance and help society, then we have the right to change that, and in extreme cases, overthrow them. I hope that makes sense. So those are my answers to the 3 questions that I posed. Please take time to tell me your own answers, and thank you for watching.